Welcome. Welcome to the Goatee Sports Page. Coming to you live from the Blue Tick Tavern in Maryville at 105.1 FM. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Bringing you the best in local sports since 1978. Featuring the Greenfield Gunner, Mike Edwards. Former Maryville Scot, Donnie Moore. Former UT coach, Ray Trail. From the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons. And Troy Provo Heron.
Hello, everybody, and greetings from the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, along with former Vol football coaching legend Ray Trail, Troy Provo Heron, and Marcus Fitzsimmons, and this is the Goatee Sports Page. Tennessee and LSU are set to tangle in the Bayou, and we're going to the whistle blows. And now let's set today's lineup card, sponsored by Blunt Partnership. First up, it's the University of Tennessee Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group, followed by the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook with volunteer legend Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Tennessee football will be on the agenda along with the latest UT sports news. Troy Provo Heron will announce high school scores from around the area and then mark it down with Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty, features Heritage Volleyball. Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron unveils the Anderson Lumber Company High School Player of the Week. Maryville Volleyball will be in the discussion. Marcus Fitzsimmons and the panel discuss sports headlines from around the country before the Tennessee Smoky Spotlight shines on some of the top college football games on today's schedule, along with the panel's views of the firing of Wisconsin coach Paul Chryst. And finally, the panel gives their shelter insurance bold college football predictions for the week as the crew tries to slow down Troy Provo Heron. And now it's time for the UT Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook, featuring former UT football coach Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Tennessee and LSU will tee off at 12 noon today in Baton Rouge. The Vols come into the contest riding high at 4-0, and the Tigers come in at 3-1 after getting a big win last week at Auburn. The game can be seen on ESPN. Tennessee is ranked 8th nationally, and LSU is ranked 25th. The Tigers' lone loss was to Florida State in their season opener. Tennessee comes into the game as a 3-point favorite. Coach Trail, this is a huge contest for both teams. One team in the West and one team in the East. Tennessee right now sits in second place right behind Georgia, and they're looking to climb one more step on the ladder, but they got to get by LSU today.
Yeah, and that's a tough place to play. I'll tell you that right now. Those fans down there, they'll get to the game at about 8 o'clock this morning, and I've been drinking that hooch. And I'll tell you what, now there get wild down there.
Yep.
But, I think Tennessee's got a good chance to win that game. If our defense will play just a little bit, that Florida extravaganza we had where we give up 550 yards, if they do that, you'll give those fans something to yell for.
You're going to give them a chance to hang around. There's
That's
no doubt
exactly
about that.
Right, and but we get out there and take care of business, and play like we're capable, and get our defense. Like I said, try to keep our defense off the field as much as we can, and I think we got a great shot.
Yeah. Troy, this game's a 12 o'clock start as far as we're concerned, but they're going to kick it off at 11 o'clock down there. Is this to Tennessee's advantage that they're playing at 11 o'clock and not, say, a 7:30 game tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Ray's right. Like, it's Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it's Death Valley, and it's you talk about a program that has not lost more than 2 home games in a season since 2008. I don't even want to know what their record is at night games. I'm sure it's pretty darn good, just because when you give those Cajuns all day to get ready for under the lights, they show up. And so I do think it is a bit to Tennessee's advantage, but it's still, one of the toughest places in the country to play. Yeah,
but what we haven't mentioned is they started drinking at 12 midnight last night and showing up, so they've been drinking all night long for 11 o'clock.
Maybe they're a little tired then.
We played down there at night, and when I walked out on the field at 4 o'clock, and it was wild. I mean, you would have thought the game was fixing to start. We got on just our regular clothes, and just walking around looking at the stadium a little bit, exercising, and heck, fire. I never been called so many names in my life. As walking around the field, them guys are, hey this, hey that. I mean,
they're ready to go. Marcus, they don't pollute the Tiger, do they, before these games down there? Huh?
You would hope not. I mean, if I was a Tiger down there, I would want to be fully sober because they've got gators down there.
Hey, I want to ask you, Marcus, Tennessee's been off a couple of weeks. I would think you'd have to be a little concerned about them staying focused, and I know they've had a chance to heal some injuries and they're rested, but LSU, they've got some momentum because they won a road game at Auburn, came back down 17-0, got the game, so they played. They're in sync. They're in the routine.
Well,
is there any advantage here or not?
Well, I think it's football, so you've got the normal sort of thing going on. You've got the wear and tear you get from playing an SEC game. And LSU's got questions. I mean, you've got a quarterback that left that game.
And didn't play well before he left.
And you've got a backup who also got banged up in the win over Auburn at the end of that. So you've got some dings you've got to deal with that you're still putting yourselves back together after you got home. Whereas Tennessee is rested up. I don't think we still know the status of a couple of starters, but they've had at least a little bit of time to try to get their legs back under them. So I would say Tennessee has a bit of an advantage, momentum or not. Now, they'll pay for that in the back half of the season when they play 7 or 8 straight now. But
well, if they're not looking toward next week, they play Alabama next week. So
we'll worry about LSU, Ray.
I know it.
I'm not going to worry about Alabama.
And I'll tell you,
it's a natural thing.
They've had a lot of people patting them on the back, too, for 2 weeks, and I'm seeing these T-shirts around. It's starting to feel like 1998 all over again, and, hey, there's a lot of football still to play here, Coach Trail.
I tell you, we hadn't played the top people yet.
You can say it's feeling like 1993
Alabama
or 92 all
98's when they won the national championship.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't think that comparison is fair to be made, but you could say one of those early 90 teams, a Heath Shuler team, one of the first Peyton Manning teams. Yeah. That excitement. I mean, they beat Florida and went down to LSU that Shuler's last year.
Yeah. Coach Trail, he put this game in perspective. I think this is how really big this game is. If Tennessee gets this game, I think it takes a lot of pressure off next week against Alabama, because they can lose to Alabama and still go down, take care of business at Georgia, and if they win out, they can still win the East if they get this game. But if they lose this game, the pressure's on. You can't lose to LSU and Alabama. Georgia, unlikely that they're going to lose 2 games in the season. But I think it does take a little bit of pressure off. it puts them in a better position if they get this game today.
Oh, and no doubt about it. I mean, that's like climbing a ladder. It's just another rung that you got to grab, and playing. The only thing that bothers me is playing down there. And we've had a week off. Everybody's been patted on the back and told how great they are. And you got to go down there and take care of business. Just like you said, you got to get focused here.
I tell you.
And if we get beat this week and then turn around and have to play Alabama, I tell you what, the last part of the game season is going to be tough.
We've all been there, Coach.
Oh,
It's hard to play after that big win and play the next week. Now, I guess maybe to a certain extent, being off 2 weeks might resolve some of that. But, I've seen so many teams win that big game, and the next week they just fall into the tank, and they're just primed to get themselves beat in the next week.
That's exactly right. Everybody's been patting them on the back, telling them how great they are. You just got to win this, and you got to do this, and you got to, I'll buy you a beer.
And they need to let us be talking about that, not them being thinking about it.
That's exactly right. Hey. I mean, it'll be, and going down there, it's a different show. I'll tell you that right now. I've been there. I can tell you.
Yeah. Troy, LSU, let's talk about them just for a second and what this game would mean to them.
Right.
It'd be a victory over a top 10 team, and they move up into the polls. Certainly give them more confidence in further play in the West. It'd be a fourth straight win for them after losing their opener because they didn't capitalize on an extra point or whatever. I think it was an extra point to go into overtime. More confidence in Brian Kelly, getting more acclimated to his system. He's not an easy guy to play for. This kind of scares me a little bit too.
Yeah.
This guy's a hard, old-school, discipline-type coach. Those guys kind of worry me a little bit, Troy.
Yep.
And they seem to be adjusting to him pretty well. If they make mistakes, he lets them know about it. Pretty much right there on the sidelines. Your thoughts on what LSU's got to play for compared to what maybe Tennessee's got to play for today?
I mean, LSU has a lot to play for. I mean, don't sit here and just say it's because Tennessee's a top 10 team that this don't mean a lot for LSU. I mean, LSU, sure, they might not be in playoff consideration, but they're a top 25 team. I mean, you're talking about an LSU team that really struggled a year ago, obviously, was forced to move on from Ed Orgeron and go to Brian Kelly as its coach. Like, we talked about this last year when Tennessee went 7-5 in the regular season. Like, that's a really important foundational piece for what Tennessee did and what they've done so far in this year. The LSU's in the same boat, and a win today against a top 10 team does a lot for that program. Obviously, it's been one of the best programs in college football for a very long time, and a win today probably vaults it back into that category faster than most expected after last year's debacle.
Marcus, LSU was down 17-0 last week at Auburn and didn't look good at all, for them. And then all of a sudden they got a fumble. Well, they capitalized on Auburn mistakes. Auburn pretty well beat themselves, and the defense made some plays.
It was not a pretty game to watch.
It really was not a pretty game. But anytime you went on the road in the SEC, the only uglier game was Georgia and Missouri out there. That was pretty ugly too. But I was impressed by the fact that they were down 17-0 on the road. There was a full house there at Auburn, and they came back and won the football game. Huh?
Yeah, they should. They have the resiliency, and LSU is going to play with a chip on its shoulder simply because of where it was coming from last year, like Troy mentioned, but also because of what happened against Florida State and because that game was the only game of that day, that first week of the season, and it got a lot of attention. And they're going to be the underdog all season because of it, because that's what people are going to equate. A lot of people, that's going to be LSU for this season.
Yeah.
So they have a lot. They've got a chip, and they know it. And it was, I want to give them credit for coming back and not folding, but at the same time, it was Auburn, and this was not a good Auburn team they beat.
No. And Coach Terrell, let's talk about I just praised the LSU defense because they did make some big plays. They turned the game, but the problem, the concern is they gave up 458 yards to an Auburn team that's not a very good offensive football team. And now they're looking at Hendon Hooker today, who's 81 for 113 in passing, 1,193 yards, 8 touchdowns, and I've got this circled, 0 interceptions. I mean, they're going to be tested today big time.
Well, you know, if you're in the SEC, you're going to be tested. I mean, we can't pick out games and say you're going to be tested. You're not going to be tested because you're going to be tested in every game, just like at Missouri to Georgia.
Yeah, and Texas A&M last week, Mississippi State, and Kentucky down at Ole Miss. You know, they beat themselves down there. So.
Kentucky gave them that game. I tell you what, they had 3 or 4 fumbles and a fumble from the quarterback and everything else. In a period of about 10 minutes, it was like they had 3 or 4. But the thing is, you got to play the game. And if it were me, I'd double team that quarterback. I'd put everything on him because without him, they're not anything.
And we can talk some more about this because I've got this right here in the lineup. But, you know, you can't let Hendon Hooker stand back there, Troy, like he's been back there and throw the football and pick you apart. And that's what he did against Florida. You're going to have to take some chances, and you're going to have to come after him. And if you take some chances,
you're susceptible to the deep ball.
You can get burnt.
But I tell you what, I'm just looking at the game. I think the weakest thing we have is a running game. The only running game we have is Hooker, and you know, to me, the secondary, our receivers, we're kind of weak out there, and I'd put the rush on him. You know, I mean, I might not do it every time, but I'm on at one time I'm on rush 8.
Yeah.
You can't block them. You know. And I'll just say you're going to be running for your life.
Yeah. Troy, Brian Kelly, he's already seen Hendon Hooker. He saw him at Notre Dame when they played Virginia Tech, and Hooker played in that game. Is he going to be a little bit more prepared? Will he know maybe a little bit more about Hooker, or is Hooker just an entirely different quarterback?
I think Hendon Hooker is a much better and different quarterback than he was at Virginia Tech. I will say this, though. I think the advantage that LSU has today is that they haven't – it's not that they've seen Hendon Hooker. It's that they've played Mississippi State, who runs a pretty similar offense to Tennessee in that air raid style, and they beat them pretty good, beat them by 15. Now, granted, I think Tennessee is a more talented team than Mississippi State, but they've seen this before. They know what it's like. They know how to stop it. I think that is LSU's big advantage today.
Yeah.
Did Mississippi State beat Texas A&M the other day? Beat the tar out of them.
Yeah. Hey, Jaden Daniels, the LSU quarterback, Marcus. Coach Trail was talking about Hendon Hooker really kind of being our best rusher.
Yeah.
Well, LSU's in the same boat because their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, is pretty much their guy right now as far as running the football. I see some similarities between LSU and Florida. You know, Florida's quarterback, ran the ball. I guess the only big difference is Florida's quarterback could pass, I think, a little bit better. I don't think Jaden Daniels has really shown that he can throw the ball as well as some other people right now. But you got to contain him. So maybe playing Florida maybe gets Tennessee ready for this one a little bit.
I think it's going to be very similar, and I think there's probably some Florida lessons that can apply. I think you're right. Daniels doesn't throw the ball as well yet, or if he does, he hasn't shown that yet. But I think he's in the same sort of growing pains we saw out of Florida, that this is the SEC, and some of the things you think you can do, you can't do here. But at the same time, Tennessee's just as susceptible, if not weaker than they were against Florida when it comes to that secondary. I mean, you've got guys that are already out. They're already shifting people around. It's very possible we could see true freshmen in there if not this week, maybe next week. And they've got things to figure out. So Tennessee's got a weakness, and it's got a big bullseye on it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether LSU's got a quarterback that can get anything out of it.
He's rushed for 915 yards. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but we know how valuable a quarterback is to any team, whether it be the SEC or wherever. We got quarterbacks banged up in the SEC all over the place this weekend. And Jaden Daniels was banged up last week. We don't know how much he's practiced this week. We don't know the extent of his injury. We don't know if he's going to be full speed. We don't know whether he can throw the ball. His backup was really unimpressive last week.
It'd be about like us,
But LSU, Daniels is aggressive with the ball. He runs the ball when open, and he's a mobile quarterback, but doesn't take a lot of chances throwing the ball. You know, Kelly says he needs to take some more chances, you know, not be so concerned with getting an interception. And Kelly says, well, you know, if you don't get an interception here and there, you're not being really very aggressive throwing the football. But got to be a little bit concerned with him running in the game today. And, and they like to run the ball. And my question is, if he's in there and they're running the ball and that's eating clock, that's really kind of to their advantage a little bit too if they can play a little ball control on Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the whole key. That was what Florida did. You know, and they ended up with 500 and something yards offense. But they kept the ball and mixed it up real well against us. And we were lucky to come out of that game, really. I'll tell you the truth. I thought we were just lucky that guy fumbled the ball, and while we were behind is 5 points.
I mean, you can run it, but the thing is, you've got to be efficient in your scoring and the number of drives you score on against Tennessee, because Tennessee is going to score on a certain number of drives every game. And
you're right.
So if you're going to eat clock and run the ball and limit the number of possessions, you still have got to put a score when you get through with that drive. You can't just go eat 5 minutes and get 30 yards and punt it.
Yeah. I just think that if you're watching Tennessee this year, I think it's going to be – the games are going to be close. I mean, it's a 3-point spread today, and next week against Alabama, we'll see how that plays out. I look for maybe a high-scoring affair next week. But I just think every one of these games are going to be – they're going to be – because of our defense. Yeah. They're going to give – Tennessee's going to give up points. Troy, let's talk about Tennessee. Their whole deal is Hendon Hooker and that offense and scoring points, and they can score – pretty much wherever they are on the field with the receivers and so forth. Can LSU score enough points to stay with Tennessee if Tennessee has their way today?
No. They just don't have that capability. And so I think that has to be the game plan for Tennessee. Run your offense, run it the way you know you can. And if you do that, you win the football game. I just don't think LSU has the offensive potential to go out there and score 30, 40 points.
Their offense doesn't have the potential, but the thing I think to be concerned about, and it hasn't been a weak spot for Tennessee so far, but law of averages do catch up with you, is LSU, how did they beat Auburn? It was because their defense created turnovers, and those were created turnovers. Those weren't like he just threw the ball to the wrong guy. They physically took the ball away from receivers.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, you look at their 3 games against teams that teams that matter. I'm not counting the New Mexicos and the Southerns. The most points they've scored is 31.
Yep.
So
Tennessee's going to be without a couple of players. Cedric Tillman, we assume he had surgery on a high ankle sprain. I don't look for him to play because of all the cuts you got to make as a receiver. I think it's going to take some time to get him back. And then they lost Warren Burrell, a secondary player. He's out for the year. So
that's not the worst loss. Warren Burrell can't cover anybody. So.
Yeah, but I think they've made an issue at times about Cedric Tillman being out, and I don't really know when he comes back from this injury how effective he's going to be. But Jalen Hyatt, 23 receptions, 325 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and Brew McCoy, the transfer from Southern Cal. I'll tell you what, both of those players have performed well. And if you look at Brew McCoy coming from Southern Cal, by golly, he made a couple of good choices. He got a couple of top 10 teams. He was with Southern Cal's a little bit ahead of Tennessee at 6 or whatever, and then Tennessee's right there. But those guys, I think that's been a big story right there was the receivers, how well they played, the backup.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last week, but like Hendon Hooker said after Florida, like I trust these guys. I practice with them every day. Cedric's our best guy, but we got other guys, and I see what they do in practice. I mean, I'd be remiss if I don't mention Ramel Keaton in that list. I mean, he makes arguably the catch of that game against Florida with that diving catch before halftime. So
they have going to be played over and over and over again
on video boards for 10 years. And so, I mean, they have a good group of receivers and a good group that should play well today.
Yeah. Coach Trail, I want to talk a little bit about the SEC East. And I'm going to call it right now like it is. It may offend some people, I don't know. But right now, from top to bottom, it's a pathetic pathetic-looking division.
It
I mean,
is.
right now.
Mike is so critical.
You got three
well,
teams ranked, and it's a pathetic division.
No, I'm talking about the SEC East.
I know, but you've
East.
got Kentucky,
I'm-
Tennessee, and Georgia.
Yeah, well, Kentucky's fading. But anyway, this is the
And every team
record.
in the
Outside of
country's fading.
Tennessee and Georgia, the record of the other teams in the SEC East, SEC records, right now is 1-8. 1-8. I think right now, I mean, all this could change. I mean, 3 or 4 weeks from now, I'm going to say, well, the SEC East, let's come on strong. It's looking a lot better. But as we look at it right now, I'm just seeing that we're down to a two-horse race right now with Tennessee and Georgia. I'm not sold on Kentucky. I think Kentucky is Kentucky, and they're just not
And they
there.
got to play here.
They got to play here.
I got two
They
things
got
on
to
that,
play
Mike.
here.
I got two things on that. One, the SEC East would look a whole lot better if your guy Shane Beamer could figure out what football is. And two, I mean, we talked about this on Wednesday, Mike. Yeah, the SEC East isn't as good as the SEC West, but if you look at college football in general, what divisions are good outside of the SEC West and the Big Ten East? The Big Ten West is terrible. The Big 12, the Pac-12 North, bad. The Pac-12 South, it only has at USC.
I understand.
I
understand all that, but what I'm trying to say,
Atlantic,
I
all bad.
understand all that. It's just that's the way it kind of plays out across the country.
East
but the
is
East
bad
is where
on the
Tennessee's at.
Yeah.
The East
Well, the
is bad
East
on
is
the
where
bottom.
Tennessee's at, and right now, and the way it's been the last several years, it's been a bad division. It
But
really
it's
has been a
better.
bad
The top
division.
of the division has gotten better because now it's not just Georgia because you've got Tennessee, and I don't care what you say, Kentucky has
It's a
still
top
got
13,
some votes.
and they're a top 13 team.
But the
it's
bottom,
crazy.
but the bottom of the division has also gotten worse because, I mean, Vanderbilt's bought some wins, but outside of that, what if Vanderbilt,
Well-
Missouri, South Carolina, they don't have a lot of W's to show
I'll
for
tell
it.
you something.
So the bottom of the East is bad compared to the bottom of the
You all
West.
can pitch Kentucky all you want. I'll pitch them a little bit more when we play basketball. But they got South Carolina today, and he's running me. He's running me in the ground with Shane Beamer, and the way South Carolina is. Kentucky, with all their ratings and everything, they're coming in today with they're a 6-point favorite against South Carolina.
I do want to say
today.
this: there are two conferences in the entire country that have 3 top 15 teams. It is the SEC East, not the SEC West, and the Big Ten East.
I tell you what, Coach Trail, I understand where he's coming from, but I'm looking at this from where Tennessee's at and what division they're in. And right now, they're in a weak division.
Terrible.
They're one of two divisions in the country that have three top 15 teams.
They're in a weak division. You got Vanderbilt, you got Missouri, you got South Carolina, and
You love South Carolina.
And you can go on. It's a weak division. It's Georgia and Tennessee, and you can take all the rest of them and put them in a rain barrel.
That's right. That's exactly right. But it was like last night, that ball game I watched last night, Houston playing Memphis.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, there's Houston. They get beat 7-7 or something like that. I mean, it was an embarrassment. I mean, the sorriest looking techniques by linemen I've ever seen.
There's a reason that conference plays on Friday nights.
I tell you what, that was two pitiful teams.
You got a lot of skill players in that conference, but the fundamentals are sorely missing.
Terrible. Their linemen, nobody comes off the ball and blocks anybody. It looks like everybody just kind of goes boom like that, and nothing happens. I was sitting there thinking, now here's Houston. Used to be a heck of a good team. No fundamentals at all. Worst tackling I've ever seen. I watch that game and I see guys running from the ball carrier, and I'm thinking, what is this? But that's like you were talking about. The bottom of our conference looks kind of like that. You know, I mean, I don't
I-
understand it. I don't even.
Don't mean to be real critical, but I'm really kind of glad we're in this league because
Thank
I mean,
the
you
Lord.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be in the West, and it could all change. It could all play out at the end of the year, you know, whatever happens. But I think it has been to Tennessee's advantage a little bit that you're,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if you're looking at Missouri and you're not looking at a Mississippi State and Starkville or a Texas A&M down in wherever,
Texas.
College
I would,
Station.
I would
wherever.
trade. I don't think I'd have any problems subbing in Auburn for Missouri on Tennessee's schedule. I mean,
Auburn's terrible.
the bottom is bad, but
But the bottom is the bottom for a reason. There's
But
the
if
worst
you-
teams.
but if
Like
you-
you're the bottom for a reason.
but if you're
terrible.
Tennessee, it doesn't matter to you because you've got the best team in the West on your schedule, no matter what. And in the rotation, you ended up with LSU or Ole Miss. Well, you got LSU this time, so it doesn't really help. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're still going to play somebody good, and you can't say I'd trade Georgia for Alabama because we got both
Okay.
of them.
And-
Would you like to go to the West if they said, hey, we're going to put Auburn over in the East, Tennessee? You're
No,
gonna
because
go
they
in the
play at
West?
11 o'clock in the morning, and that's silly.
And I also want to mention two things. I also want to mention Kentucky's only loss is a 3-point loss to a current top 10 team. So I think writing them off, Mike, is absurd. But also, you love the Big Ten East. The bottom of the Big Ten East right now is Indiana, Maryland, Michigan State, and Rutgers. A whole pile of garbage and crap.
Have to explain this
It's
to
crap.
him again. I'm going to explain
It's
it to him one
bad.
It's
time.
fish
I'm not saying that other conferences don't have schools that aren't bad in their league. I'm just saying that I think this is an advantage to Tennessee to be in a league
There is a
right now in the East that's not very strong. It's just not very strong,
There are no
and it's
strong
not very
divisions.
strong.
He's just
And
chumming the water for you, Troy.
And
You
you just
just-
you
you
can
keep
go to
fighting.
you
There are
can
no
go to
strong
any
divisions.
league in the
Except for the
United
West.
States and make the same comparison, and that's fine. But the East is not strong. Leave it at that. That's the way it is. Okay, let's go on. Let's move on. Tennessee's a 3-point favorite today. Coach Trail, what do you think?
We're picking it later, Mike.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about it right now.
We're going to discuss it now because we're
Well-
going to run short on time by the
Right.
Well, to me, it's a toss-up. I don't know how you give 3 points to a visiting team, that really we've just not shown that we're. I mean, we got spurts that are good, but we can't count on Hooker doing all that he did in the last game. My gosh, he'll be beat to death by the time of the end of the season. I mean, he is carrying the load by himself, and if you stop him, you pretty well stop Tennessee.
I think that's a good point, and I think the warning signs are out because we got about 4 or 5 quarterbacks, as we've mentioned in Slee. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. They're banged up today, and they're questionable
Yeah, I
in a
know
lot
it.
of these games. And it's almost time for us to get out here, but Troy, I do want to mention one more thing. Tennessee's basketball squad is going to play Michigan State and Gonzaga in scrimmages, this year, which is a little bit different than we've seen in the past.
I
in
think
this
it's
program.
great. I think that's great.
And do you think this is a more of a trend in college basketball now that they're playing these scrimmages? And
I think they're
you're gonna
just
charge-
talking about it now. They've scrimmaged Davidson
Yeah.
ever since
Yeah.
Barnes has been here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're going to charge people $10 to pay-per-view it, then, yeah, it's going to become a trend because you're going to make a ton of money.
Coach Trey, I think it's a good idea, and
I
we've
do
mentioned
too.
this in the spring. I think the football programs ought to take heed of this and play a scrimmage against another school, an
Yeah.
inter-squad game, and do it in football in the spring instead of the orange and white game or whatever.
I agree
Yeah.
with that 100%. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Hey, it's time to turn the page. Next up is the local scoreboard and Mark It Down, featuring Marcus Fitzsimmons. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093. The Blue Tick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Blue Tick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Blue Tick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the local scoreboard sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty. You're up, Troy.
Yeah, I guess I have to replace Donnie again this week, and I'm just going to go in chronological order like I did last week because that's the easiest way I know how to do it. So we'll start with Tuesday in Alcoa Volleyball winning the District 5 AA tournament. They advanced to Tuesday's Region 3 AA tournament and will face Hickson in the region semifinal. Also on Tuesday, Alcoa's Riley Parsons and Noah Witten tied for 9th at the Class A state tournament at Sevierville Golf Club, while Greenback's Lori and Sweet finished tied for 5th. Wednesday was an off day for all of our people except for our volleyball people to the side of the camera here. Thursday, Maryville Volleyball won the District 4 AAA tournament for the 3rd consecutive year, while Heritage finished runner-up. Both advanced to Tuesday's Region 2 AAA tournament. We'll talk a lot about that in the next 2 segments. Maryville will face Knoxville West in the semis, while Heritage faces Oak Ridge. Thursday night, TK defeated Lakeway Christian 52-22 to snap a 3-game losing streak, a big win there for the Lions. And then Friday, Greenback hung tough with Coalfield for one half, 7-6 at halftime, and then got blitzed in the second half, lost 40-6. And to wrap up our local scoreboard, Maryville's Parker Miller finished tied for 16th at the Class AA state tournament at Sevierville Golf Club, while Nick Talley finished tied for 34th.
Yeah. Now, they've moved that golf down to Sevierville.
Yes.
It used to be over in the western part of the state. How's that working out, Troy?
It's a beautiful course. I'm sure the people in Memphis don't like it very much. It's a long way to travel to play golf, but it's a much better course than it was in Manchester, which was basically a lot of sand and a little bit of grass. So
you see that being a long-term deal for
I would hope so. It's just a really, really nice course. You have 2 different courses in the river and the Highlands, so girls can play one, boys can play the other, and it just kind of makes a lot of sense.
Well, they had some great weather, that's for sure.
It was beautiful.
It did, and
I was out there every day.
It's not nearly Manchester was a very tight course when you've got, and those classifications were even smaller than what we have now, where we've only got 2. But it was just packed. The parking wasn't there, the facilities weren't there, the course wasn't there to support doing all those tournaments on it. They just couldn't keep it in shape for it. So Sevierville makes a great place. And what's more, if you go to play at Sevierville, if you stay an extra day, you can go to Pigeon Forge. You've got places to stay. You're not forced to stay 40 miles away and drive in.
It's a fun experience for the kids. Like, they can go to the water park or something if they want to and all that stuff.
It's just, I think it's one of the few times I will say that they made a good choice selecting a venue for a lot of right reasons.
TSSAA did something right.
Well, that's the first time.
Everybody gets lucky. It may have been by accident, but I'll give them credit for that one.
I know in Manchester there's not a whole lot there. I
No.
used to recruit Winchester, and there's not much going on.
You didn't
there.
stay all night down there, did you?
There's
No,
one
no.
steakhouse at the exit, and you could not get a spot in that parking lot the night after the first night.
I want to congratulate all those teams for their success this week, and I'll pitch it to Marcus for Mark It Down.
Hey, give me some more time today. I appreciate
That's what
that.
I'm trying to do.
So, am I supposed to jump on the segue you were mentioning about the district volleyball tournaments? Or?
Yeah, that's what you were supposed to do.
Okay. So I'm going to jump on that segue that Troy so tactfully did not provide, and we'll continue with that. We've got Heritage Volleyball joining us. Coach Keeble's come in, brought a couple of Lady Mountaineers, runner-up finish at the district tournament. And, Coach, we'll start off here with you. Thanks for coming back. I don't think we talked to you since very early in the season.
Yeah, no, anytime y'all call, we're available. We'll come join you.
And but you talked when you were here last time that this was where it counts is in the postseason, and you were talking about some of the scheduling you had early in the year, how that was going to pay off at this point in the season by playing some of those big tournaments you did. Do you feel good about that now? Like, do you see some of that paying off at this point in the season?
Yeah, I feel we're seasoned. We played some really good teams out there, and let alone our districts. Tough enough having to play some of the teams that we play. But when it comes to postseason, the girls can attest. It's about our side, what we do on our side of the court now. I could care less who's on the opponent on the other side. It's how do we handle certain situations offensively and defensively, and self-reflect and look what we're doing. And if we're doing our side right, then I'm okay with whatever the outcome is.
Well, you brought 3 of the Lady Mountaineers with you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce who you've got with us this morning?
I've got a couple seniors, Melanie Morris and Aubrey Pierce here, and then Kaylin Bradley. So we've got the libero, our setter who kind of runs the offense, and our leading kills here with Kaylin on the outside. So all key parts here to what we do.
And I'm going to ask all 3 of you guys. I know that the disappointment not getting the title, not getting the district championship, but you got to still feel good about what's coming up next week, the regional. So what do you feel like you have to do to regroup from where you were Thursday to what you have to do on Tuesday?
I just think we have to prepare mentally better because we can beat Maryville and we know we can beat Oak Ridge. And I just think that if we prepare mentally as a team and, like he said, take care of what we're doing on our side, then I think we'll be just fine.
And what's the best thing that's working for you at this point?
Right now, it's not about just pumping the outsides. It's more about keeping it spread out and keeping the middles ran on offense, but making sure that we're passing in the box so we can actually run a consistent offense.
And Coach, let's recap it for the people who didn't read Troy's stuff every day in the Daily Times. Right. You beat Lenore City. You get past Bearden in the quarterfinals, run into Maryville in the semis. You have to win that consolation game playing Bearden again. At this point, the postseason seems really long, by the way.
It does, 4 days.
When we list it off like this,
yeah,
and then you get that second shot at Maryville in the championship game. You lose that one, but the formatting is, for those who aren't familiar, the runner-up still going to region and the top 4 are playing. So you go over to Maryville, I believe, is hosting on Tuesday.
Yeah, they'll host.
So set that up as to what you all have to do on Tuesday night.
Right now we're just going to win the first match. We're doing something fun here. I think it's fun. I've got a little motivation thing that we're doing, and told before that Bearden match that we had to win. I made kind of a sheet out handwritten. I said I got 4 seniors, and we put match 1 Bearden, I want their signatures after we win. I got match 2. We're going to have their signatures in match 3. Once we get all 3 of those at the bottom, the whole team's going to sign. And we're going to frame that when we make it out to Murfreesboro. And that's kind of a motivation thing. I keep telling them, hey, I want your signatures after this game. So I don't know. It may have worked. It may not have. It seemed to work against Beard because we came out on fire and took care of them fairly easily, 3-0. And whether we had a letdown against Maryville, maybe the first set, but like they said, I think a lot of it's a mental thing when we play them with their ball control and some of the things that we do offensively. But again, we don't have to beat Maryville hopefully until we face them in the finals of Murfreesboro. That'd be the dream scenario. Let's get there and see them there at the end. So I don't really have to handle them. I just need to win, against Oak Ridge and then handle that sub-state match. And after there, it's all. Yeah, after that, everything's good after that.
I believe Melanie had mentioned it. You all feel confident facing Oak Ridge. How well do you know the squad, and is it somebody you faced already this year?
We played them once before, and we kind of had a rough match. We went 5 with them, but I think we could all agree that we don't really need to go 5 with them. I think we can handle them in 3 if we stay confident and just handle the first pass and our serving, because we struggled with serving the first time we played them, and so that's what kind of let them get back into the match and take us to 5 sets. But I think if we've been handling that well recently, and if we keep doing that, then I think we'll handle Oak Ridge.
Is there any nerves with that one? Because that is the big one in the postseason format, is you've got to get that region semi.
I mean, sure, but not really. Not like it's like, oh no, I'm scared to play, but like excited nerves.
Anxious, yeah, excited, anxious. That's let's get going.
Like I'm ready to get this. Get
it's
over
more
with.
like I'm ready because for us seniors, it could typically be our last game if we don't go out and just lay everything out on the floor for that one game and then go in with a mindset that, yeah, we can do this. We've got Maryville.
Galen, talk a little bit about this team's mindset, because, we can remember it hasn't always been where you talked about the postseason that state even came up in the conversation. Like that was like, yes, we'd love to go, but it was never like we expect to go. You all have an expectation that you can get to state any given year. How does that kind of feed into what you all do day in, day out at Heritage?
It kind of just teaches us that we can actually do something if we put our minds to it and go through the process of everything that we've been taught, everything we train for on a daily basis, no matter what we have to do. It just kind of helps us go through everything.
Now, Coach, I want you to explain something for us, because we got listeners, and we're going to put a trivia question here. How do you actually pronounce the position? Is it libero, libero? I mean, I've heard about 4 different pronunciations already this season. How is it supposed to be said?
Well, I see Chris over there, in Maryville. We could get her over here, and she could do her Australian pronunciation of libero. Yeah. So you might want to ask her that question too. But
well, Troy's adding that to his list for her.
I say libero, but what do you say, Mel?
Libero.
So she says with a little southern twang. So I don't know.
Libero.
Well, come on, you're my libero.
They're the one with the different colored jersey.
Libero or libero, nothing else.
Yeah.
So I tend to ask this question at least once a season. I'm going to throw it at you. Explain to the people out there who don't understand volleyball and just see the white ball going across the net every so often, what is the purpose and intent for the position?
The libero position basically runs the back row and runs the defense, and so it's my job to basically make sure the ball's not on the ground, and to and being libero, you're supposed to be the best passer or whatever, and so that kind of puts a little pressure to handle the pass and everything, because my job is to put it in the box for Aubrey to set. So, yeah.
So why do you all get to wear a different kind of jersey?
Because a libero doesn't count as a substitution, so I can just run in for whoever. If somebody was having a moment, I could just run in for them. But usually I just play back row for the middles. So it doesn't count as a substitution, because I go in and out a lot.
Okay. So for the person who asked me this earlier in the week, no, it does not mean you can kick the ball over the net. It doesn't give you special privileges like a keeper in soccer, right?
It doesn't, but I mean, you could if you wanted to.
Well, Coach, you don't have any nerves. So what do you kind of feel like the team needs to focus on in your perspective? What do you need these guys to do to get ready for Tuesday?
Well, it's just relax. Like she said, it's not a nervous. To me, there's no pressure. It's a game we play. Do we all want to win? Yeah. Does Oak Ridge want to win? Yeah. We all want to win. So if we can go out and have fun with each other and go back to, I keep telling them, just do your job, whatever it is. It's not personal. If you're struggling, you have to come out, fix your mind, go back in. But it's just a matter of getting over the next game. And I think with Libro here, and she put balls in the box, and Aubrey can run the offense. And like I mentioned, Kaylin here has big games. She's led us, and she hits some big balls all the time. Coming over from Jeff County last year, she's kind of new to Heritage, but she's fit in really well with these two and knows them from the club scene. But I need her arm this weekend or on Tuesday to take the big swings continuously. And then I think if those three put it together, then all the other pieces, they just fall in line as long as their first contact's good. So.
She's been kind of quiet there in the corner.
Junior and seniors there, they're talking.
So we'll give you the toss-up question here. So come in from the outside and put this one down for us. What's it like coming into this program? That's a little bit of a transition.
Yeah, it's definitely different coming into a harder district, coming into like a family that I kind of have to make my way into since they've known each other for so long. But it's been a lot easier, like knowing some of the girls from club and Coach Keeble, just making it so much easier for the transition. I feel like we've bonded a lot.
How long did it take you to pick up on some of the rivalries that Heritage has?
Very quickly.
It's funny, I've got her in class. What do I tell you every day in class? I come by and what's my words?
Whoever we have to beat, he says, I don't like losing to da-da-da-da. So whatever team. So, if we're playing William Blount, I don't like to lose to William Blount.
That's kind of what I tell her every time. So it's worked so far. We'll keep it rolling.
It's those motivational tools that coaches keep in that toolbox, right? You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I think for those who have listened to our show and have listened, especially when you've been on, are familiar with how the club scene kind of interacts with the prep scene. But if you're just listening for the first time this Saturday, there is a whole different level of volleyball going on outside of the prep circuit, and it's sometimes I would say a much higher level in some settings. But you all end up playing. If I'm correct here, like some of the people you're playing against right now are people who are on your team on the club level, right?
Yes.
That makes for some interesting times at some of these matches, does it not?
It does.
There's friendly words said at times, and there's not so friendly words. It's all at the end of the day, though. Chris, the last two times, I guess I've lost to her. I'm at her house eating dinner. We're talking volleyball and whatnot. So it is especially in this county with William Blount, with Kendra there, and Chris, we all coach at the same club and we have the same kids, and Chris wants to see these three excel and do well. I want to see the kids that I've coached over do well, and at the end of the day, it is just a game, and for a lot of these kids, they may have the opportunity to go on and get their school paid for, which ultimately, hey, you can get out of school no debt and get to have that experience to play some more in college, then go have fun with it. So at the end of the day, we're all friends, and we're going to try to beat each other. But we're going to have fun doing it.
Well, you've given me the perfect segue here because we've got it coming up a little bit later in headlines, talking about the Lady Vols a little bit. But we have a favorite of the show who is down at South Alabama, and you're wearing some of the attire today. Can you give us an update on how the season's going for Kaylee?
Yeah, Kaylee's doing well. She played, it's funny, I guess Thursday night we were playing, when we played in Maryville, and my wife kind of just had the running score because they were playing at the same time. And they're doing well this year. Last year, had one of the best years ever at South Alabama. This year they started a little slow, beat Ole Miss, Power 5 school, so that was a good win for them. But right now in conference they're 5-1, so they're tied for first. Have a big week next week versus Louisiana, then Texas State after that. Those are kind of the top 2 or 3 that have to battle each other. So she's doing good. Setter like Aubrey, running the show, and loving being close to the beach. So.
Well, I'm wishing her the best luck. Now that I've got reasons to go down there myself, in the interest of disclosure, I should say mine's at South Alabama as well. So right. We've got some. I have to give them a little bit of love now that I've got ties. But anyway, we appreciate you guys coming in. We wish you the best of luck on Tuesday. We'd love to talk to you again when we're talking about how the state tournament went, if y'all can do that for us.
That'd be awesome.
We'd love to have you back for that. But I guess it's go ahead and time to turn the page, Mike.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Marcus. We'll take a timeout here, and when we return, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron announces the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week. You're listening to the GOTee Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment featuring Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron. Troy, this is kind of a volleyball a week, and you know, you talk about all the sports in Blount County. Volleyball is one of those areas that year in and year out pretty stout here in Blount County, huh?
One of the best sports we got in the county, no
Absolutely.
doubt about it. And we are with the 3-time defending District 4 AAA champions, the Maryville Lady Rebels. Are joined by Maryville coach Chris Hames, setter and our Player of the Week Liv Gravitt, and outside hitter Amanda Mack. And Chris, I do want to start with you. Just what does it mean to y'all to win it for a 3rd straight year?
I mean, obviously, our district is so strong, so the fact that we can win it 3 years in a row is amazing. We have amazing players, but there's amazing players on all the other teams. I mean, like I said, Heritage has some great players as well, so it means a lot, and it really shows that we are good when it counts. And I always tell the girls we've got to be good in October. It doesn't really matter what you do in August or even in July. So it's just kind of excited to see that they've kind of picked up the level at the end.
Liv and Amanda, coach mentions that y'all play in, if not the hardest, one of the 2 hardest districts in the entire state. Just for y'all going through an entire regular season to get the #1 seed and then win it in 4 days, just kind of what is that pressure, I guess, like just knowing that every single match you play, it could be the end of your season up until that championship game because of just how good the teams are here?
I would say that, especially since it's my senior year, it was like I wanted even more because it's my last chance to get it. And it's my last year with her, and we're like a dynamic duo. So it's like also we wanted to get it together. And I just feel like every year it's been super important to us. And the fact that we did it 3 years in a row is just like outstanding to us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've been pretty close the past 2 years, and it's like awesome, and like it feels really great to know that like we've gotten so close again. And I feel like with like how hard we've worked this year, we could definitely like take it all the way. And like Liv said, like one of our goals together was to like win a state championship together because like we've been best friends since we were like 10. So yeah.
Coach, we talked about this throughout the week, but Wednesday was the big day. You want to get past that region semifinal, and obviously you and Jason know each other so well from K2, and all these girls know each other so well. Just what is the sigh of relief when you kind of sweep that game on Wednesday and keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, even I think some of it, Jay kind of he motivated our girls in a positive way, saying that it is hard to beat a good team.
Right.
I mean, 3 times, and so that definitely motivated our girls, and I think that was probably one of the best games we played all year. Probably the biggest game we were going to play to kind of get, and obviously our first game on Tuesday will be big as well, but they just played so tough, and they were unstoppable. And I mean, I'm sure Joe's like, well, there's nothing else I could do. And some days you have games like that, and obviously the district final was a little bit closer, but we were still able to control it. But yeah, just that display of our 2 outsides was, I mean, you don't really see that very often, and that was pretty cool.
Liv, I do have to mention that moment warmed my heart because anytime a kid says they read the newspaper, it just makes me so happy. Most kids don't. So I did appreciate y'all kind of reading that and taking it to heart. But just from y'all's perspective as players, when you read that, and obviously, you know, y'all have beaten Heritage 3 times this year already, just what was the message, I guess, in y'all's group chat or anything like that?
I would say because we know the Heritage girls pretty well. We play on club teams with them. And then Jason was my club coach this last year, her club coach the year before that. And it was just like we're playing against our best friends. And it was like you want to take it away from someone that's close to you, obviously, because you want it for yourself. But, like, when it comes to sports, it just became so personal. And, like, me and Jason always butt heads during high school season because we're against each other so much. And so that feeling of just, like, him saying, oh, well, they can't beat us 3 times, I was like, okay, guys, we have to beat them 3 times. There is no way he's going to be right in this one.
Amanda, something that Kieran told me on Wednesday, too, is that there is just a little bit of added motivation for y'all, knowing the fact that he does coach y'all on the club level and y'all want to just beat him because you know him so well. Just kind of take me through all of that.
Yeah, so Coach Jason, like, obviously he was my, like, club coach, not, like, this past year, but the year before. And, like, always, like, every time we play them, he'll always come up to me and, like she said, like, we'll butt heads. And he's like, okay, like, you guys don't got us this time. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, I'll show you. And so it's just kind of motivating, but also to know that there's, like, that love. Like, it's like a whole family. And, like, the volleyball community is so, like, tight and so close. And it's so nice to play against people like that.
Coach, we just talked about Jason with this, but what is it like from a coach's perspective in this area, considering that y'all do know so many of the girls from all over with K2? How hard is it to prepare knowing that they know y'all's weaknesses and strengths and vice versa?
You mean, obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to that. Jay's a really good coach. He's probably one of, the top coaches in the state, and so he knows our weaknesses. But then in the reverse thing, I know his weaknesses. And so, there's obviously advantages and disadvantages. The cool thing for the girls is that, they play year-round, and then they get to play against their friends and with their friends. And so that's really cool, and there's a rivalry. And we, like the girl said, we really want it to be a family. Ultimately, we want everyone to be successful and grow the sport. And so for them, it is like family, and playing against each other and then beating each other, it's kind of a win-win. And then obviously for me, when I see 12 kids that have kind of been part of K2 playing each other, it's just neat to see. And obviously D and J are good friends with mine. my their daughter and my daughter were best friends since they were 10.
Right.
So we have a relationship going back. So it is cool, and it's cool that we have some K2 coaches that have really kind of coaching high school and have successful programs.
Liv, as the setter, you're kind of the offensive general of this team in terms of you dictate where that ball goes, middle, outside. But on Wednesday, you had a really easy decision all the time. It touched your hands. Let's just get it to Amanda and Kieran. I think Kieran had 22 kills, 1 error, and Amanda had 16 kills, 3 errors. Just how much easier did that make your job knowing, hey, Amanda and Kieran got it outside. I'm just giving them the ball.
I just ever since this season started and ever since I've been playing with her, I kind of trust her with the ball every time I give it to her. And Kieran is the type, too, where she'll come up and she'll be like, set me. I want you to set me. And I'm like, okay. That confidence gives me confidence in her. And then she also will be like, Liv, set me this ball. And so during this whole match, they're saying they're hitting it and they're getting streaks of like 7 kills in a row. And I just, even like our middles were like waiting for the ball to go to the outside because they just knew, because they were stacked on the middle for a while. They were not like letting anything get past in the middle, and they were not letting anything get past on the right side either. And so when I set the outside, I just felt confident that they were going to get a kill.
Amanda, did y'all eat anything differently that morning or anything like that? Because y'all were killing it on Wednesday.
I don't know. That was crazy. I must say, like, I have one of the best setters ever.
I did tell the girls, whatever we did on Wednesday, we need to just do it again.
Figure that out.
We need to figure it out.
Throughout
I think
the
one
whole
of them
thing.
said they drank a Red Bull. I was like, well, maybe you can drink one the next day. No.
Chris, if I'm not mistaken, I think when you did play Heritage in the regular season, your middles did have a good game. Was there an adjustment on your part in anything to kind of force it outside a little bit more, or
no? And obviously they have good middles, and we have good middles. I mean, they're young, but they can score and they're very athletic. I think, I mean, as a former setter way back, you set the players that are getting kills. And I mean, I was telling Liv, I said, hey, look, until they can stop them, keep setting them. And then at that point, hey, you can maybe set the middle or set behind because she has probably no block at that point. But for them to be that successful and be able to score with 2 up over and over again, I'll be like, just keep setting them.
Liv, what has it been like watching your middles kind of develop throughout the year? Because obviously you're going in with a completely new group than what you had a year ago when y'all went to state.
Yeah, our middles are very young, and they were talking about playing club this year. Like, they are just insane they're insanely athletic. And Maddie, yeah, she's like 5'7" or 5'6", but she jumps higher than I'll ever jump, and it's insane. And I tell her, like, oh, like, get back a little bit, like, I need to set you a little tighter, and she's just like trying to like ask me for help on how to get better at middle and stuff like that. And then Shinny, she is just so good with tipping to different areas. People never know what she's going to do. And I just feel like these middles are going to develop so good until when they're seniors, they're going to be star middles.
Amanda, obviously the district championship is nice, but I know y'all have such bigger goals. Y'all want to get to state. Y'all want to win it this year after being the last 2 years. In that district championship game with already kind of advancing and you let Heritage get back in the first set, do y'all think y'all just maybe took your foot off the gas knowing, hey, we're on to the next level and we can worry about all that stuff when we get there?
I feel like as a team, like, we've tried to focus on just like keeping our foot on the gas, like, so to speak, because that's something that I think that we sometimes would struggle with, is we would kind of like take a step back and be like, oh, we got this, but like, no, we need to like keep pushing and like never take our foot off the gas, because like that's what's happened in like previous years. Like, we get so close and then we're like, but yeah, so now we need to like just keep pushing like we have been lately. So.
Because I do want to now focus region tournament. You obviously played Knoxville West Open this season, swept them, but just how much of a challenge do you think it'll be, knowing that you haven't played that team since the middle of August?
Yeah, obviously it's. I mean, I think it was our first day of the first game of actually the year. So it's always hard because I think teams improve and who knows what their lineup is now. But obviously for us, we play such a tough schedule that I feel like we're a completely different team than we were the first day of season. So I feel kind of confident in that. We've played some really, really good teams this year. We went to some of the highest level tournaments, at least drivable for us. So I feel like we're prepared, and I obviously, I mean, we've beaten them and we've beaten Oak Ridge. We played Oak Ridge a little bit later in the season. Jay, and they've beaten them too. So obviously we feel like our side of the district, our side of the region has the advantage. It's always hard, but I think hosting at home always helps. And, I mean, the girls are very motivated. They know that game, I mean, you lose, you're done. You win, you move on. So they know the importance of every game that we've played so far. And for us, the advantage is that we've won those games the last 3 years. So that's a huge advantage. A lot of the time, teams are like, oh, I'm just glad to be there, not have expectations, but we have expectations. So I think we'll come out on fire, hopefully like last Wednesday. That would be awesome. But, I mean, I think they'll come ready to play.
Liv, August 15th seems like an eternity ago for me. It probably feels the same for you after 30-something matches. But what do you remember about Knoxville West from that opener?
I honestly am going to be completely honest. I do not remember a single thing.
I don't blame you. It's a long time ago. But I figured I'd ask just in case. You never know. Amanda, you all have played in that Louisville tournament the last 2 years and all that stuff. Was there a moment in this season where it kind of felt like things clicked? Obviously, you all have a completely different group than you did a year ago.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I feel like when we clicked was definitely probably Wednesday because like we've been like on and off, like kind of struggling. We'll be on like it's almost like a roller coaster. It's like up and down, like high highs and like kind of like lower lows. But now we're like everything like clicked, and we've been playing so well, and we've been playing like so like together, I guess is the word, and we're more just like we're meshing so much better, and like I just feel really good about going into like these next few games.
Chris, I know every coach says, hey, we want to be playing our best on postseason, and I know we've talked a lot about Wednesday, but it has to make you feel good that it seems like this team is doing that in postseason time now.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew in the beginning of the season it would take us a while. We really just got 2 returning players that had played all the way around. We had 3 kids that played JV last year that never really saw the court, so new bro, and so we knew that it would take us a while to kind of get all the little pieces together and get them working together, and I really felt like, we've definitely turned the corner, and I do. I knew it would take a while, and I feel, and like Amanda said, probably Wednesday was our best game ever, and it's good to be good now than in August, and I always tell the girls that you got to be good at the end and win the right games, and I feel like we're definitely prepared.
All right, Marcus, I pronounce it libero, but I am going to have Chris pronounce it here.
Oh, libero. Libero.
Libero. Okay, there you go. So we've got now 3 different answers on this show, so there you go.
But I'm Australian, so you know what? We didn't even have that when I played, so.
But I just love the fact that I do not feel as guilty as I have thinking I've been saying it wrong all this time, knowing that the people that live this can't agree on how to say it.
Libero, bro.
However,
I even go with bro. that's.
You only say bro.
Yeah,
I've heard people say I've heard people say lib before.
Lib.
Yeah.
So.
Liv, Amanda, I want to get y'all out of here with this. Obviously, y'all have been to the state tournament the last 2 years, and I think y'all wish y'all probably had more success than y'all have had the last 2 years. Just kind of what is the message? I'm not looking ahead or anything like that, but what is the message if y'all get there to kind of make a longer run and try and win a state championship?
Honestly, I would say that getting to state is an honor for anybody. Right. Even just making it to that first game is like, that's very lucky to get there. Only a certain amount of teams get there. And the fact that we've made it these past 2 years in a row, and we have very high confidence that we are going to go that far again, I feel like, yeah, we haven't made it that far yet, but I feel like there's this push in us that now it's like our last year together, my last year, that there's nothing stopping us from making it the farthest we can make it.
I just feel like as long as we keep playing together like we have been, like a family, and like mesh like how we have been, we can definitely make it as far as we want to, because like Coach Chris said, we have like very high expectations for this season, especially like this is like our last time playing together. Like we really want to make it that far, and we definitely have that push in us. So,
Chris, what does it say about this group that they are able to kind of take those expectations that you've placed on them and they kind of live up to them every single day?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky, right? We work hard at practice. They come ready to play. All of them do it year round, obviously that makes a huge difference. And so it means something to them because they do spend a lot of time. I mean, both of these guys are getting the opportunity to go on and play at the next level, which is amazing. But, I mean, they're in the moment right now, and they want to do their best they can to kind of get us to the point. And, I mean, like I said, the state champion from last year, Nolensville, is out. So it really just kind of shows you just how hard it is to get there. And, I mean, I think they're really going to get that opportunity and take it for what it is because we are good enough to win it. I mean, like I said, we have to have all our ducks in a row, but we've got probably one of the two top outsides in the state. So, I mean, if they and we can get other kids involved, we definitely have a chance.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us this morning. We wish you the best of luck Tuesday against Knoxville West and whoever you play in the region championship if you get past Knoxville West, and a potential sectional on Thursday, right, Chris?
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes.
So hopefully we get to talk to you all again after a state tournament.
Hey, Troy, wouldn't it be cool if we could relive this scenario a little bit more?
Yeah, and just
where we could have them telling us about how motivating it was when Coach Keeble said you can't beat the same team 5 times in one season.
5 times. It would be 5 times.
Yeah, that's what we are rooting for. We're rooting for a Heritage Maryville State Championship game. That's what we want here in Blount County. So hopefully that happens. But
that
again,
would be cool.
We'd like to thank you all for coming on, and we appreciate it. And Mike, I'll turn it back to you to turn
Thanks,
the page.
Troy. Time for a break, and when we return, it's Sports Headlines with Marcus Fitzsimmons and the Tennessee Smoky Spotlight. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
The Blue Tick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza. Made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Blue Tick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Blue Tick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, and it's time for the sports headlines with Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Marcus is filling in for Donnie Moore. I don't guess we've mentioned, but Donnie's been on vacation, and Marcus, he'll be back next week, so we'll look forward to him coming back.
Donnie is
with us.
Donnie is listening to the show currently, so hi, Donnie. Safe travels back home. Can't wait to have you.
Did he say if he's listening to it on
listening to the app?
Which app? Because we're on several.
That's a great question. I don't know.
Facebook or YouTube?
No, he's listening to it on the radio app.
On the radio app.
Station,
okay.
Yeah.
I was
Loud
hoping he
Media
was
app.
watching us because, I showered special for him since I was filling in to be less is more or something like that.
And then you had to clean up deer blood all over your car
Yes.
today. So
Sevierville Road is not a good place to be driving this morning. We'll lead off with the headlines. But, we'll go back to UT a little bit and kick on some of those other sports. Tennessee Rowing kicks off its season today at the Secret City Head Race in Oak Ridge.
I think that is the first time Tennessee Rowing has ever been said on the show.
Well, we're going to work this in. That Secret City Head Race is today and tomorrow. It's actually started just about 30 minutes ago. Lady Vols have 3 boats going today, and they'll have 1 going tomorrow. So we'll just say good luck to them at the start of the season and to TriStar Rowing because they're also a club-level competition there, and TriStar is our Blount County team, and so we'll wish them good luck to start off the season. On Wednesday, Lady Vol Volleyball dropped a 3-1 decision to Florida, who was number 15. They return to action hosting South Carolina this afternoon and have a second meeting tomorrow over on campus.
I wonder if Spencer Rattler's going to play in the game. He sure would probably fare better in volleyball than he does football.
You're not you own Rattler bad every time.
And they're 3-2.
I think
they're
he's on
3-2
Mike
on the year. 3-2. He had a big game the last game, and they're only a 6-point underdog today.
Here's what I don't like. All right, and we're going to talk about this later.
Marcus.
But Mike talks about. He says Spencer Rattler had a good game last week. They played South Carolina State.
Yeah.
So we had a good game.
I think, didn't South Carolina State beat Middle Tennessee State that beat Miami? I don't know.
That never happened. I can promise you that didn't happen.
It works for me. Okay, moving on. Lady Vol Soccer, number 19, Tennessee, extended its winning streak to 3 games on Thursday with a 2-0 victory over Missouri at Regal. And they are now 8-3-1 and 4-1 in the SEC. They're headed to Georgia tomorrow. And they are actually close to closing out because they have LSU and Auburn, and then they host South Carolina and Vandy before the SEC tournament starts on Halloween. Turning to the major leagues, and I know Troy's been salivating over there about this, Wild Card Series have started in their new formats. In last night's opener, San Diego connected on 4 home runs off Max Scherzer and down the Mets 7-1. The Phillies were down 3-0 in the 9th and blasted their way back to a 6-3 win over the Cards. On the American League side, Seattle blanked Toronto 4-0, and the Indians knocked off Tampa Bay 2-1. The second game of those 3-game series start today. In fact, it's about an hour away. And if needed, the third games will be on Sunday. And let's just put it out there. Troy, owner of Mets, you got 5 combined Cy Youngs between Scherzer and Jacob deGrom starting today. Combined, they're making $70 million this season, which is more than 4 Major League Baseball's entire roster is making.
Yeah.
You got 4 clubs that their whole roster doesn't make a combined $70 million. And last night, Scherzer's booed off the mound.
Yeah.
New York's a tough place to play, but if you're the Mets, what's happened in the last 2 weeks?
Well, the first thing you have to do today, and this has to be done as soon as possible, if you're the Mets organization, you want to build a safety net right outside the owner's box, because if Jacob deGrom gets lit up tonight, he might take a plunge off the box. It's unreal. Like, these have been the 2 best pitchers in baseball for a very long time, and just for the last 2 weeks, anytime they come to the mound, they're just not good. And I don't know, you could say, well, obviously Jacob deGrom hasn't really been in this situation a lot in his career, so I can maybe understand that a little bit. But, Scherzer's won a World Series. Like, he should not have any pressure here. There's nothing he's never done before. It's a really bad time for those guys to go limp. And
did they wear them out this season?
deGrom hasn't pitched till half the year.
I know,
He's been hurt.
I'm just asking.
I don't know. Scherzer maybe, he is older. So if you're going to say anything about Scherzer, maybe he's hit a wall. And he's like 34, 35 years old, I think. So that hurts. But, I mean, Jacob deGrom should be well rested. And, again, maybe he just isn't built for this moment. But, I mean, he can disprove that today. But, man, if you're the Mets, you feel really bad because you've built this entire team around those two dudes. Like, you feel if you are in a postseason series, in any postseason series, you know you're going to get them 4 times. You feel good about that on paper, but just so far in the last 2 weeks, this is kind of narrowed down. They obviously choked to the division away to the Braves, and now you're kind of facing this best-of-5 series, and one of your 2 aces gets lit up last night. You're not just pressing the panic button. You're like pressing it repeatedly, and you're trying to fix something.
Well, let's get the other one that was a surprise, at least to me. St. Louis is at home. They're in the house that Budweiser built, and you know, you're leading 2-0. You're going to the 9th inning. Everything is clicking for you for the most part. Your closer goes out. All-star closer goes out there with the 2-run lead.
Gets McShelled.
And basically, yeah, got shelled. But he gives up a single, and I can understand walking Bryce Harper or not.
Yeah.
But then he walks Castellanos, and then he hits a guy and plunks in a run, and the wheels just came up. The wheels just literally, you can see them flying up into the into the stands.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about professionals, and so you expect a lot out of professionals, and Ryan Helsley's been good all year. But, again, Ryan Helsley's not pitched in this situation before. Like, he's never pitched in the postseason. So you get out there in the 9th, everybody's watching you. You get a chance to seal down a 2-0 win, and sometimes it runs down your leg.
Well, St. Louis had been I'm going to throw this number out there, but if you think about it, it's really not all that surprising. But in the postseason, going into the 9th inning with the lead, before last night, St. Louis was 93-0 in that situation. But I'm also saying you went into the 9th inning with the lead in the postseason, so yeah, you're probably going to have a pretty good number there.
It'll be very interesting to see if the Cardinals manager sticks with Ryan Helsley in the 9th the rest of the series.
Well, turning the page a little bit, we're going to talk about the NFL. Some news that was coming out late last night is continuing to develop this morning. The Players Union, and this was the statement, our union has agreed to change the concussion protocols to protect players from returning to play in the case of any similar incident to what we saw on September 25th, and that's referring to the Tua Tagovailoa situation. We would like these changes to go into effect before this weekend's games to immediately protect the players and hope the NFL accepts the change before then as well. Now, last night the league said it was working on updates to the concussion protocols, but would not commit to implementing them before the games tomorrow. But I think this morning we've actually seen some movement from the league statements, and I haven't seen the latest one across the ticker, but it sounds like they are actually considering making changes before they kick off on I think the concern is they can't do it before the first game in London.
Right.
But they could do it before the game's here. I think that's the question.
What is the change?
It's going to basically, if you leave, you're not coming back in.
Yeah, you can't.
They can't evaluate you in 30 minutes to know whether you should be able to come back in. Is basically what they're asking.
I think they should tear up the turf and go back to grass.
We didn't have that before.
Hey, that turf that they play on in college and high school and pros, I'm telling you, it's going to be the death of them. They come down, it's nothing but like we're playing on asphalt. That's what's underneath it, isn't it?
That's what's underneath.
They need to tear it up and go back to grass. And I think it's a big problem. I don't want to discourage William Blunt and Heritage from putting in their artificial.
It wasn't just Tua Tagovailoa. It was also Cameron Brate of the Bucs last week that came in with a concussion, said, Nick, I probably shouldn't have come back in the game. And I will say this. Players need to care for themselves more than they are. Like, if you know you cannot come back in, if you do not feel readily good enough to come back in the game, don't come back in. Like, you don't owe these organizations anything.
We can say that, but to the player, especially somebody in like Tua's situation who took a lot of criticism and had a lot of expectations.
I agree.
I think he's answering fan expectations, not so much the club, and I think that's what players need to be protected from.
It's true.
But we'll go on. Let's go from positives to complete negatives and talk about Thursday night NFL.
I don't know what you're talking about. I had a blast.
Did anybody
stay up and watch that game?
I watched the entire thing. That was
Oh boy, was that fun!
Defensive struggle, wasn't it?
No, it was not. It was an offensive struggle.
It was a football struggle.
It was an offensive struggle.
That was two clubs that seemed to have everything going wrong, battling to a 12-9 overtime decision that, while on Amazon Prime, was anything but prime time. And raised two huge quarterback questions of things that we were expecting that really reared their head. You've got Denver, where you've got, I don't know what you want to say about Russell Wilson, but
I'll tell you, he stinks.
well, this would be my thing. This is the observation I have. You have a rookie head coach in Denver,
A bad head coach.
who is putting him in shotgun after Russell Wilson's entire career with Pete Carroll, where he has had tons of success. He was under center because it gave him the opportunity to move and use his mobility, whereas now he just seems like he's wandering around the backfield lost. He's not been the shotgun this much his entire career as he's been the first 3 games at Denver.
That's true, but he's also like 1 for 12 in the throwing balls in the end zone this year. It doesn't matter if you're outside the pocket, if you're inside the pocket, if you're in the stands, if you're ordering a hot dog. You throw the ball to the end zone, complete a pass. He hasn't done that yet, and I don't want to put it all on Russell Wilson. That throw to Stephen Gilmore at the end of regulation there, they're basically got a chance to win the game there if they just run the clock out. It is a horrible throw. And you should probably not test Stephen Gilmore, as good as he's been in his career intercepting passes. But the coach for calling a pass play there, when you're running it so well on that drive, there's less than 3 minutes on the clock, and and they have no timeouts left. You just run the clock out, and they're screwed because Matt Ryan is like 55 years old. He's not getting you down the length of the field in 40 seconds. He's not doing it because he can't throw the ball that far. But if you give him 3 minutes, he has a chance. The Broncos are an absolute dumpster fire. Just an absolute disaster situation.
Broncos, that's their first-year coach.
Yes, Nathaniel Hackett, and it's going to be his first and last.
Yeah.
If he makes it.
He might not make it to the end.
But let's talk on Matt Ryan, because I thought it was bad football. So even for the Colts, who were coming off 4 days, you got Matt Ryan. You have the league's returning leading rusher, who did not play. But you have a very good backup who managed to get hurt. Mm-hmm. Ryan was sacked 6 times. Colts have given up 22.5 sacks this year.
Their offensive line's terrible.
So when you have an offensive line that bad, I mean, you've got literally the league's leading rusher, and your team does not have a rushing touchdown at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, he also threw that quack, quack, duck, duck that should have been intercepted as they were driving down the field for the game-tying field goal.
But how do you have these skill? How do you have a quarterback who you know you're going to have to protect for him to do anything for you? Mm-hmm. You can't pass block for him. You can't open holes for the league's leading rusher. What does your line do?
I think
collect a check.
I think in leagues across the nation, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, MLB, there are a lot of people who get the title of general manager that just have no neurons firing in their head. They just got nothing. And for the Colts to go into a year where you're right, Jonathan Taylor is arguably the best running back in the NFL, an aging quarterback, some young receivers, you would think, just my opinion, and I don't know, I'm a Madden expert, I just play video games, so maybe I shouldn't be the one to say this, but you would think, hey, let's get an offensive line.
Right.
They didn't do that.
I want to be Ray on this. Pick one thing and do it well. Run block or pass block. Do one or the other, because right now you're not doing either.
Don't do diddly squat. Don't do diddly poo offensively.
That's been my opinion the whole time. And it's the same thing in college ball as in the pro. Is if you don't have a running game or something, your quarterback has a bad day. If you got a good running game, the kind of takes the pressure off of him a little bit. But I tell you what, when you got a line that don't block and your quarterback's getting knocked down every time, I mean,
you lose.
You get your butt beat every time. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to close out with a little bit of racing before we put this over to the Smokies spotlight. But NASCAR yesterday, and this was something that probably got buried in a lot of things. The Race Team Alliance, which is basically the big teams taking kind of a players' association stance to negotiate with NASCAR. Now, their subcommittee came out yesterday, and that committee is Curtis Polk, who is Michael Jordan's business manager, who is basically running the Jordan's racing operation. Jeff Gordon, 4-time champion. You had the vice chairman of Hendricks Motorsports, and you had the president, Joe Gibbs Racing, and their statement was, being a NASCAR team is no longer financially viable, and that the series is broken and unfair and has no stability for ownership, for a team owner to be able to field a team. And basically threw down a gauntlet to NASCAR that says we're not going to be playing much longer, is what it sounded like. At least that was how I read their announcement. And they actually brought up the word I don't think we've ever heard in NASCAR, which was that the teams were looking at the only way to save money next season was to be doing layoffs from the garages.
Yikes.
Yep.
When Joe Gibbs is talking about doing
tell you
layoffs?
what, I think what they ought to consider is a merger with IndyCar. Probably never happened, but you get IndyCar and NASCAR merged where you can cross drivers into both series.
We have a race where the Indy cars and the stock cars race next to each other?
No, but you can have drivers, crossing over and running, the different series like they did in the old days, and I think it would be a great thing, but they've kind of been at odds over the years, and so I don't know what'll.
I mean, that sounds to me like where some of the places where F1 was at one point, maybe 10 years ago, where all the teams were struggling and it sounded like we were going to be shutting down. And I mean, it's just weird that NASCAR is following a pattern of something that's already been done.
They had a changing of the guard, with their drivers. A lot of well-known guys, stepped down, and then you had COVID, and because of that, the crowds, they kind of priced themselves out of the deal where you had to buy a weekend ticket to Busch Series and also to the main race there on Sunday, and they just sort of priced a lot of fans out. They just said, "Well, I'll just stay home and watch it on TV." Heck of it.
Well, and we mentioned this. Also, the big drivers retired. Like Jimmy's
that's what
not racing
That's what I'm
anymore.
saying. They had a
Jeff's
changing
not
of the guard, and their crowds have fallen off a little bit, and they run a lot of races. I mean, and then you got to ask yourself, well, are you oversaturated? With events,
42 races.
Yes.
And you have now they've even turning the last third of them into playoffs hasn't worked that well.
Yeah, you're talking about IndyCar having 18 races or something like that on a year, and they've been done since they finished when football. They don't want to compete with football and everything else, so they finish up before football season, and which I think is a pretty smart move on their part.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, a season that goes Valentine's Day to Thanksgiving just seems a little bit long.
Yeah.
Yeah, families can just buy so many tickets.
Right.
You got part of your family that's race cars and other parts football or whatever. Golly.
Well, I'll close out the headlines there, and turn it on over to Mike. But I'm filling in for Donnie Moore for hopefully the last time, and hopefully he can be back and do this right next week.
Okay. Hey, I want to talk, Coach Trail. Let's talk a little bit about Paul Crisp up at Wisconsin. Wisconsin and their head coach Paul Crisp have parted ways. He'll be paid $11 million in a buyout.
He needs a better agent.
He had a contract through 2027, and that contract was, I think, for upwards of I think he's leaving about $20 million on the table, and I don't know all the details. But the buyout's going to come from their school fundraising organization. It's not coming from the athletic fund, but they bought him out. He won 72% of his games at Wisconsin. He was 67-26. Went to 7 straight bowl games and won 6 of them. Now, I've seen some of the other firings. Colorado fired their head coach, Carl Durrell. He was 0-5, and, Georgia Tech and Nebraska. Those guys had, they'd been there, and, it wasn't working out. But here's a guy that's won 72%, had gotten off to kind of a rough start, and see you later. I don't know.
I think there's more to that story than
you
than
think there
just
has
the
to be,
football.
doesn't there?
Yeah, there's got to be more.
Like,
There's
who do you
something.
think you're going to bring into Wisconsin that's going to be better? Why do you upgrade? What kind of upgrade do you think you're going to hire, and how do you think you're going to finish this season unless there's another reason?
I don't know. For me, it's like I think Wisconsin – I don't know if it's the right justification, but I think Wisconsin was looked at as a team that could potentially compete for the playoff as a second Big Ten team. And obviously they have –
Well, so is A&M. They've dropped more than
up.
anybody this year. I mean, they dropped 18 places.
Yeah, but what the difference is that Jimbo's buyout is 70-something million and Paul Christ's is 11. There's a vast difference there between financials.
If you're Wisconsin, why do you feel the need to do it now? Why not wait?
Exactly.
You're not going to spend SEC money, so why are you pretending you're going to spend SEC?
And that brings me to my next question. They're firing these guys, 3-4 games into the season, and you want to hire somebody, and you want to hire somebody right now and get them on the line, because this is a new thing. Usually they wait till the last week of the season or 2 weeks before the end of the season, but they're now firing them right here at the first of the season. So if you hire somebody, do you bring them right on in there and let them start coaching, or how do you handle the deal?
Well, the thing is, what I would like to know is this transfer thing that these kids can just drop out and go somewhere else. What are you going to lose in your kids there?
Exactly. It's going to set you back 5 years, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
At least.
I mean,
how are you bettering your program at Wisconsin
you're not.
if you're going to lose your players and lose a 72% guy that's won games for you? I don't know. I don't understand the rationale.
I'll tell you the thing that I see and the whole deal is we got people making decisions that are not qualified to make those decisions. These academic people don't understand the game of football. They want instant gratification, and they don't know how you do it.
Coach Trail, this is where we're at. We've talked about the professionalism that's come into college sports. Now, when you're firing guys after 3-4 games, that's professional sports, where you're getting rid of somebody, even if they got a long-term contract or whatever.
Right.
Money's got into the deal. They've created that. They're going to have to live with it. It's going to be a part of it from now on.
Well, like I said, when you started telling players that they could go here or there or whatever they want to do, then people start looking at, well, you had this and you got that, and you're not making it, and
Yeah.
When I came up, coaches, Frank Broll, Darrell Roy, all down the line.
Exactly. How would you like to go in? Let's say Woody Hayes started off 2-3, and he's won, Rose Bowls, and you got to be the guy to go in there and say, "Now, Woody, we think it's time for you."
Time to go.
How would you like to make? Or how about going to Bo Schembechler, and giving him the news? That'd be something to watch.
Or go to Bear Bryant.
Go
to Bear Bryant.
Yeah. Because there were times. You remember back in those days. You remember Bear Bryant when he had that rough go down there at Alabama, and they thought he was over the deal, and he moved into the athletic dorm. Remember, he moved out of his house and moved into the athletic dorm so he could be with his players to try to get things turned around. They stuck with him, and then he won, a couple more national championships.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? Some of these guys would have never got off the ground.
Well, they'd have fired Bear down there. We beat him 4 years in a row. He'd been gone.
He'd been out of there.
But it's getting that way in everything. Everybody wants immediate gratification, no matter what it is.
But notice this: when you see this going on, you're seeing Nebraska, Wisconsin, which, they're big name programs, but you're not seeing this in the SEC right now. Nobody's pulling the trigger with some of the contracts on the SEC coaches.
Auburn is close now.
Yeah, the fact that
Texas A&M's thinking about it.
The fact that he's still there going into today and wasn't fired after the LSU game
is remarkable.
Says that you cannot do that in the SEC, and because your expectation is so much higher.
Yeah,
they know you can't win that. You're throwing away that season. You've got 8 games left, and you throw them away.
It almost feels as if the teams, and obviously Ohio State is kind of the exception to this because they are in Michigan too, for that matter. But it seems like every other school is trying to find a way to catch the SEC, and I don't know if that's a feasible way to run your program. Like, you're just not in that. Like, the Big Ten is not as good as the SEC, and there is no conference that's as good as the SEC. You're not going to draw the players because you are in the North and not the South. And
it's just because you can't make a chant that says Big Ten that sounds as good as the SEC.
Yeah, right.
Really, if you look at the SEC, we only got about 3 or 4 teams worth a dime.
Right. Don't get Troy on that, because he's going to go all over the country and say, well, they're Big Ten. They got Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. That's all they got. It's that way ever. Boy, you're asking for it, huh?
That's all they got.
I can handle him. I can handle him.
But you're right. I think you can go and look, and you're saying, well, Georgia got in there last year and won. But it's pretty much been Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
It's been Alabama. Alabama, if you want to say the SEC, well, you might as well just say the Alabama League.
You're right.
Because that's what it's been.
That's right.
And they just happen to be in the SEC. But that's pretty much the way it's been, except for, Georgia. There's been some off years where Clemson's won it and, Ohio State and so forth. But, the SEC. And they created all this, too.
Oh, yeah.
All this money stuff that's going on right now, the SEC was the name. They laid the groundwork for all of it.
That's right.
And everybody's following suit.
That's exactly. They think they got to pay $10 million or $55 million or whatever it is to keep a coach.
And trying to keep up with them.
That's right.
Trying to keep up
That's
with
right.
them. Yeah. Hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, the panel presents Shelter Insurance's bold college football predictions. You're listening to the Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Your newspaper, that's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the panel's Shelter Insurance bold predictions this week. And I'll turn it over to the streaking Troy Provo.
That's a horrible thought, Mike.
There is, and you know what?
That's
you can't even imagine how hard that hurts me. It really hurts me to say that, but
there is a new king.
You got to be honest, You got to be honest.
My friends, there is a new king on top of the hill after last week because, boy, did I clean you guys out. I went 4-1. I am the lone person on this prestigious table, or infamous table at this point, as bad as you guys are playing this game, to be over 500 at 13-11. Mike Edwards 2-3 at 11-13.
But Charlie picked 1 week for me.
He did.
Now
he says that, but Charlie picked for Donnie last week, and Charlie went 4-1 for Donnie.
Yeah.
So I have texted Charlie.
Yeah, he
Charlie,
went 1-4 for me.
Charlie will be picking for Donnie again today. I have Charlie's picks. Ray Trail, you went 3-2. You're also at 11-13 with Donnie Moore, 11-13. And Marcus went 1-4. He missed the cellar so much he went back in. He is 9-15 on the year.
Yeah, well, he had the Vols at 5-7 this year. So
well, y'all didn't know. I thought Rave's down here in the cellar.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start this week with game day. It's the only non-tie game we have on this thing. But number 17 TCU is a 7.5-point favorite against the story of college football so far, Mike.
It's a 17.5?
Kansas.
7.5.
7.5.
7.5. At number 19, Kansas. Undefeated Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Walk.
Mike, I didn't start with you.
TCU's undefeated, too.
They
They're
are.
4-0.
Mike, I did not start with you last week, so you get to start this week.
I thought he started with me every week.
No, I didn't.
I'm taking the Jayhawks.
KU. Ray, what do you got?
KU.
Marcus.
TCU.
That makes us feel good if he's taking TCU.
Charlie said there's a lot of hype for Kansas this week. He expects the Jayhawks to fly. I expect the Jayhawks to fly south. This moment's way too big for Kansas. They ain't ready for game day, all that it entails. I'm going TCU tonight. All right, Mike, this is a big one for you. It is South Carolina at number 13, Kentucky. Kentucky is a 6.5-point favorite, and I know that there's no possible way that Mike sprays away from his best friend, Shane Beamer, and his quarterback, Spencer Rattler.
Let's look at this game right here. Kentucky struggled with Northern Illinois the week before last. They beat themselves down at Mississippi last week. The Gamecocks are looking for their first SEC win. Kentucky's quarterback, Will Levis, is questionable for the game. And
all right, so South Carolina.
No, I'm not. I'm taking. I'm going to. And South Carolina normally plays Kentucky really well. I'm not sold on Kentucky at all, but I'm going to take them because Troy says they're good and they're number 13 in the country. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to take Kentucky.
Ray, you're going to take Kentucky too? Good, because you're smart.
Well, they're playing at home.
They're playing at home.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter if they're playing at home in Columbia, South Carolina. At the gates of hell, it don't matter. South Carolina with Spencer Rattler, quarterback, is not beating Kentucky today. Marcus.
Well, I'm not concerned about who's winning. You said there's a 6.5-point line. That's what I'm concerned about. Is I'm not sure that Kentucky can win by that much, but I'm going to say they will.
Look, here's the thing. I've said it before. I've said it time and time again. Spencer Rattler is no good. Shane Beamer is no good. Kentucky in a rout tonight. And also, Charlie is also picking the Wildcats, so everybody is on the Wildcats.
Oh. Okay, so lead off with Charlie this time.
Okay, Charlie is taking, hold on, number 16, BYU versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in Las Vegas. This is a neutral site game, and Charlie is picking the Irish. Mike, this is a big game for your boy Marcus Freeman. A chance to get back over 500 and really change the tide of their season after drowning against Marshall.
And what's the line?
Notre Dame's a 4-point favorite, which I think is criminal.
Notre Dame's coming off of a big win against a ranked North Carolina team at the time, and they've got number 5 Clemson left on their schedule, Southern Cal number 6 on their schedule, and Syracuse that's ranked. Still on their schedule.
Mike thinks
I'm looking that this is and BYU's ranked tonight. They got one of the toughest schedules in the country. So if they can finish 9-3 or 10-2, I think this is a stepping stone for them on their way back. I just wish that Marshall game wasn't on there. Just the Ohio State loss would have looked a lot better. But I'm going to take the Irish tonight against BYU, even though they're still working with a backup quarterback.
Mike has convinced himself that Tennessee and Notre Dame are going to play in the Sugar Bowl this year. That's what he's convinced himself of.
I have not convinced myself of that at all.
I've had many conversations with you off this show in which you have said just that. So, Ray,
not true.
What do you got? Notre Dame -4 today. They're the favorite somehow, some way. You don't believe in them. You're going with BYU. Marcus.
BYU.
Yeah, I'm going with BYU. I mean, no. Come on now. All right, Ray. Arkansas at number 23, Mississippi State, and Mississippi State is a 9-point favorite. No respect for the Hogs anymore. Started the year strong, limping a little bit right now. We're going to start with Ray here.
It's at Mississippi State?
It's at Mississippi State.
KJ Jefferson, by the way, is questionable.
Yeah.
That quarterback for Arkansas.
I'd have to go to Mississippi State on that game.
You hear that, people in Fayetteville, Arkansas? Your legend has forsaken you.
No, I'm just picking a team who I think will win.
Mike.
Mississippi State by 9.
Yep.
I've still got a lot. I got a lot more faith in the Hogs than Coach Trail.
If the quarterback,
he'd give up one. Yeah, he's questionable.
If he's questionable, they do not have another quarterback.
Yeah, but they're going to give me 9 points, and I'll tell you what, they're due. You know, I wish they hadn't missed that field goal because their only loss right now would have been just to Alabama.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Arkansas.
Marcus.
I'm just as twisted as Mike is on this one.
This one's hard. This one is really tough because if KJ comes in, if KJ plays today,
I just feel like if Arkansas is playing, they could. You know what? Arkansas can't tackle a flagpole. Go give me Mississippi State.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was thinking about it. I'm like in my head. You know what? They have 70-something missed tackles.
You got nothing to lose. You're 5-20 in this deal. You know.
If you can't tackle an open space, then the fun. You know.
I'll say
Mississippi State's
this,
going to run
Marcus,
all over.
Ray, if you want to change your picks, KJ Jefferson did make the trip to Starkville.
Right. He's dressed out in street clothes.
I think Mississippi State's quarterback is probably one of the best in the conference.
Yeah, this one's going to be tough, but 9 points is a lot. I'm going to take Arkansas because I think KJ Jefferson plays, and I don't have any inside information on that.
Sometimes, they beat A&M last week, coming off that big game, maybe going to that next game. You know, maybe I think it's tough.
And Charlie also picked Arkansas. He said they're going to win outright. So he's got the backs.
So you're going to Tennessee game. It's time Troy went first. Tell us where you're going with Tennessee.
Well, Charlie picked LSU. So Charlie, remember, I think he picked Tennessee to go 11-1. And so this is the one loss he thinks Tennessee has today. His direct quote was, LSU in a laugher. The ghost of Butch Jones and Derek Dooley reappear. Those are harsh words. So, yeah, Charlie picks LSU. Number 8, Tennessee, is a 3-point favorite at number 25, LSU, in Baton Rouge, Death Valley. Not going to be as raucous because it's not at night. Not a lot of alcohol in the system.
If you preview this much more, they're going to kick off before you get to the end.
I'm trying to sell some time.
Okay.
But I am going to go. This is an easy one. Vols in a rout. Ultimately, a lot of things I pick, I like to believe in quarterbacks. Tennessee has one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. LSU has a stinker at quarterback. I'm going with the Vols. Mike.
I think this is a tough one too. These people pick these lines. They know what they're talking about. But I don't like Tennessee in those smoky grays today.
That's true. Not a lot of luck in the grays.
That's almost like having Peyton. Is Peyton there today?
He might be. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you, if I picked LSU, that would be good for Tennessee because normally when I bet against them, Tennessee.
Normally whoever you pick loses.
But I'm going with the Vols today.
Okay.
I'm going with Tennessee down at LSU.
Ray, you've already forsaken one of your teams. You can't really afford to do it twice, but you could if you wanted to.
Hey, Alex Trebek, let him hit the whammy if he wants to.
Has the quarterback practiced all week or what?
I think he has practiced. Yeah. But he's not good, so what does it matter?
Yeah. He doesn't throw it anyway. He just runs it, so,
He's going to be a little banged up, and then what he does is run the ball.
Right.
Oh, man. I'm going to take.
Ray has entered the fortress of solitude. He's going to start thinking on it. Do you want extra seconds? We can toss to Marcus if you want some extra seconds to think about.
They've buried Ray in Death Valley, haven't they? Huh?
Yeah. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
He's going with the Vols. See, he just couldn't pick against Arkansas and Tennessee in the same week.
We're putting the kiss of death on them, aren't we?
Yeah.
Marcus, close us out. Who you got? I think we brought the heads that you could put on if you want.
Well, I'll say this. I think Tennessee will pull this out, but I don't think they're going to cover a 3-point line. I think it's going to be extremely close because I think LSU is going to bring that pressure and force Hendon Hooker to throw short passes. I think it's going to be a closer game than ESPN. This may be ESPN's best game of the season. for the noontime.
That's
slot.
a lot of confidence for the guy who was 9-15 on his picks this year.
That gives me the freedom and liberty to say what I feel with the expectation.
Who'd you pick?
He's picking LSU.
I'm picking LSU, but
he's going with the Tigres.
All I can do is exceed the expectations of
that you've set for yourself. Okay, I don't know how to whistle, so hoo.
Yep.
To you, Mike.
Who'd you pick?
I picked Tennessee.
He picked Tennessee.
In a rout. It's not going to be.
in a rout.
It's not going to be pretty tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it may be ugly too.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty today. But that's my whistle.
Can we say it's pretty because I've seen enough ugly football this week?
Yeah, I don't want to watch Colts Broncos again. Please no.
Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael at Loud Media, our host, the Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore, Ray Trail, Marcus Fitzsimmons, Troy Provo Heron, and the big Seminole, Brian Johnston. Until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.